Welcome to the Real Women, Real Business podcast, where we believe you don't have to choose between doing what you love and building something truly successful. Each episode, we cut through the noise to show you exactly where your energy should go, how to eliminate what's keeping you stuck, and most importantly, how to tell the difference between what's actually making you money and what's just keeping you busy. Around here, we're all about helping you to work smarter, build stronger, and dream bigger. You've already built something amazing, but if it feels like you're stuck in a cycle of back to back calls, half finished launches, and late nights just trying to catch up, you're not alone. Most women start their businesses with passion and drive, but somewhere along the way, they start settling for good enough. They want more, but worry it will cost them too much. And let's be honest, we spend so much time thinking about how to help others, we start feeling guilty for wanting to build real wealth or prioritize our own goals. That's exactly why I created the Real Women, Real Business Mastery Program to help ambitious women like you stop settling for just enough and start building a business that is truly aligned, where passion, profits, and progress work together, because making more doesn't mean sacrificing more. It means building smarter with the right support and the right strategies. If you're ready for sustainable success in a business you actually love running, book your free coaching assessment at aboutShaunaLynn.com/coachmate. Let's explore what's possible together. Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Business podcast. I am your host, Shauna Lynn Simon. And if you've ever discounted, over delivered, or squeezed in some quick quote extras to avoid some awkwardness or having to confront the money conversation with your clients, this episode is going to show you not only how to spot some of those micro moments, not only are you going to learn how to spot them, but we're also going to help you to replace them with some CEO standards that are going to help you to protect your profit. And I like to practice what I preach. Despite that, I have definitely found myself more times than I care to admit going against some of my standard practices. And last month, I was very intentional about this. I was really mindful and really paid attention when my instincts were telling me to give someone a discount or price something lower than I thought it should be priced. Basically, what I did last month was I caught myself on so many of these moments where I'm like, I really teach against this. How am I finding myself in this situation? And ultimately, I ended up making an extra $4,000 US last month, not because of one big project, but because I held my boundary and my value on multiple occasions. It wasn't as though there was just one big thing that I almost discounted or almost gave away the money or said no to it. It was a bunch of tiny little reasonable decisions. And together they would have cost me $4,000. Like I said, no one was demanding a discount. No one was forcing my hand. My brain was just going to like, be fair, be helpful, don't make it awkward. Or how do I talk about this with them? And as much as I had to have those conversations with myself on multiple occasions, the more I was having that conversation and explaining to people what the fees were going to be, not in an awkward way, not in a, if you don't mind, like I kind of just, I should charge for this. And I hope it's okay. It was none of that. It was very confident. It was well delivered. It was not defended. It was simply, here's the price for this and wait. And this is something, again, I've been doing this for years, but despite how often I do it well, I definitely have my moments of where I second guess things. And I think especially, as we're heading into the holidays, money starts getting a little bit tighter and such. And so we want to grab a few extra jobs. And so this was all happening sort of just before the holidays just last year. So like I said, my brain was kind of saying, just, be nice, right? Be nice. And so today I'm going to be showing you some of those micro moments of where your profit leaks from and some of the standards that we can use to stop it. So this is kind of a profit protection episode, which isn't just about like, how do we make more money, but how do we actually protect some of the profit that we have? So we're going to talk about where some of these profit leaks can happen in real time. And we're going to talk about how to hold your standards when your nervous system is saying like, just be a people pleaser, just make everybody happy, which is a whole other episode that we are going to do on people pleasing in the coming weeks as well. So just keep in mind that sometimes it's not as obvious where you're losing your profit because of so many of these little small moments. So this is where we're paying essentially what I like to call the nice tax. You've probably heard this term before. I didn't make this term up, to be clear. The nice tax is what you pay when you're just trying to be nice. And this can show up in a lot of different forms. It can show up in the way that, you decide to let someone stay with you for a night and they end up staying for 2 weeks and you end up paying that nice tax to them. But it can show up in business in a lot of ways as well. And the way that it tends to show up most, especially for women entrepreneurs, is preempting that discomfort that we have around the money conversation. And the money conversation isn't just about saying, oh, you owe me X number of dollars for this product that I'm selling. It's also about, what is your time worth? And, well, it only took 5 minutes. How many times have you said, well, that's only going to take 5 minutes. I'm not going to charge that. And, or maybe you gave them some sort of extra bonus that they didn't ask for, they didn't really need, they didn't really deserve. Now, listen, I am all about customer service and going above and beyond when you can, but it doesn't mean that you need to give everything away without charging for it. There are times to throw in some little goodwill gestures, and there are times where you need to really hold the line. And one of the biggest things that I often say is, if you are giving someone some sort of concession or discount, I would say treat it this way. There's a couple of ways that I like to talk about this, but one way is, first of all, treat it as though if you were to tell them, I'm going to give you a discount. Let's say you're going to give them a 10% discount. What's your reason for it? Just because they're nice? That's not a great reason. So if you had to justify this now to your boss, okay, if you had to explain to your boss, well, I decided to give them a 10% discount, as in, imagine this money, most people that are listening to this, you are the solopreneur. You are the person who is taking care of all the things in the business. And you might not actually be a solopreneur. You might actually have a team with you, but essentially you are responsible for how this business runs on a day-to-day basis. And so let's just say that you are no longer the person whose bank account this company belongs to. You are no longer the person who's at the top. What happens if now you're spending someone else's money and giving that 10% discount? You're going to really feel like you have to justify it, right? And how do you go about justifying that exactly? So I want you to ask yourself this. If I was not the boss, if I was just an employee, I don't want to say just an employee, but you know what I mean? If I was an employee, how would I handle this situation? Again, I can hear the internal dialogue that I was having with myself of just sort of like, be fair, be helpful, make it easy, don't make it awkward. And I know I talked on a previous episode about one of my clients that I was working with. And what was really interesting was when she was talking about, we were talking about her prices, and this is her prices in general. It wasn't one particular situation, it was her prices in general. And where we finally got somewhere with moving the needle on getting her head to accept that she needed to raise her prices, it was because we had a conversation where she said, well, my client, she's seen from the client's perspective, my client only has X number of dollars. Therefore, I'm only going to charge them this. I'm like, hold on a second. That sounds like a them problem, not a you problem. Why are you discounting your value because they don't have enough money to pay you? And I understand this is a very real concern sometimes, but doesn't that potentially just mean you have the wrong client base? Maybe you're targeting the wrong people. If they don't have the money to pay you, like that's for them to figure out whether or not they can afford this, not for you to make yourself as accessible as possible. And the reality is that we're often already being not only fair, but more than fair. We're already being over accommodating. And so now we add extras onto that. And that's how, when you take a look at your profitability at the end of the year, if you were to take all the hours that you worked this year or last year and add them all up, and then take all the money that you made for the year, and let's divide the number of the amount of money that you made by the number of hours that you worked, what's your hourly rate? I'll bet you it's probably close to minimum wage at the end of the day, right? And that's not fair. The whole point of you charging what you charge is so that you can earn a solid and stable living, and do so in a way that's not going to kill you. That's not going to make you have to work that much harder. If you're working for next to nothing, you have to work that much harder. But again, this is not, I'm digressing a little bit. I'm not here to tell you about whether or not your pricing structure is right. I'm here to tell you about how to avoid that nice tax. So I'm going to share with you 8 micro moments where the leaks almost happened in my own business, because I want you to see if this sounds familiar. And obviously, to protect some client confidentiality, I'm not going to give you super, super specific on their details, but I'm going to give you some examples of what this looked like in real life. And I bet you'll recognize yourself in at least one of these. And I want you to start catching yourself as you do this. So here's one. When someone says they're interested, and your brain is like, okay, cool, offer them a deal. So they say yes. Or it's my favorite one, because I definitely am guilty of this. For those who don't know, I also operate an interior design business in addition to my coaching. And there are some projects as an interior designer that really come along where like you've already got the whole vision in your head. You really want that job. And so you decide to price yourself a little bit lower to make sure that you get it. Maybe you're in a bid situation. You really want that job. So you bid yourself a little bit lower. So they're interested, and therefore your brain offers them a deal before they've even asked. So let's reframe that in our own heads and say, if they haven't asked, don't negotiate against yourself, especially when you're not in a bid situation. That's the wildest thing too. When someone has come to you, so as an interior designer, I am rarely in a bid situation. They have usually been referred to me. They come to me, they're going to work with me. They're already on their way to saying yes. They just need to see what the price is. And the price might be higher than what they were anticipating. But in my experience, they're rarely saying no. And if they are saying no, it probably wasn't a good fit anyway. But I really want to make sure that I'm spending my time wisely. So if they haven't asked for a discount, don't negotiate against yourself. Micro moment number 2, the quick call that isn't so quick. So a call that is technically small, but might create some prep time, some follow-up time, even just the mental load that it holds on you. So if they want access to you, that needs to be a part of the offer. Whatever business it is that you are in, if people are trying to get onto your calendar in some way, whether that's a call or, hey, can you just pop by and take a look at this thing? Whatever that is, you need to be paid for it. I'll give you an example. I was actually just at my Sherwin-Williams store a couple weeks ago, and I was speaking with my rep there. So as designers, we have our own reps, and he happened to be in the store at the time, which was great. One of the things that I love about my Sherwin-Williams rep is that if ever I'm working with a client and there's an issue with the paint's not adhering properly or the stain's not coming out the way that it's supposed to, I contact my rep and I have my rep get in touch with the client, and he goes out to their house, take a look at it. Here's the thing. He's getting paid to do that, right? He is an employee of a company that is paying to do that. Now, sure, the client's not paying for that, but he is getting paid to do that. I'm not getting paid to do that. So why am I going to go out and troubleshoot that for them, right? He is getting paid to do that. So let's let him do that. So if they want access to you, you can, let's say they want you to come out and visit for whatever reason, they need you to see something in person. They say, can you ask to do a FaceTime instead? Can you ask to have them send you photos via email so you can look at them at a time that is convenient for you, so it's not getting on your calendar? Like, I don't know about you, but when I have a call on my calendar, I kind of stop everything else that I'm doing about 10 minutes before the call, because now I want to prepare myself for the call. And so that takes extra time as well. So the quick calls that aren't so quick. So what I was doing when someone asked if they could have a quick call with me was I would send them the link to book a paid call with me. You can book a paid call with me in 30-minute increments. Great. That's a great way to get onto my calendar, because everyone who wants to pick my brain, and don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to say that I can give all this information to everyone, but I'm going to say, just go listen to my podcast then, right? If you just need some information about a particular challenge you're having, go listen to my podcast. But if you want specific help, that's a paid service that I offer. Okay, the third micro moment is the soft yes for your past client. So a former client comes back to you and you feel like you should give them something. And again, it could be like, can you just pop by and check this thing out? Can we just have a quick call, whatever it looks like? Or maybe it's a matter of they want to do some more work with you. And again, your brain automatically goes to, well, just give them a discount because they're a past client of mine and I really want to honor that for them. I feel like I owe them something. What do you owe them? They paid you previously for a service that you did. They were happy with that experience, clearly, because they've come back to you. So why do you need to offer them a discount for wanting to give you more money? And if you were to offer that same service they're asking for to someone else, would you not be charging more for it? So why does your past client get a discount from you? So past clients, they get clarity from you, but they can get structure as well, not freebies. Now, the fourth micro moment is any sort of add-on that involves administrative work or coordination. So in this case, there was a product that I was offering, a course that I was offering, or sorry, a training, an in-person training that I was offering, and someone wanted to bring someone else with them. They were a member of their team. So like, well, I'm going to bring this person on with me as well. I'm like, great. And if it was just a matter of this person's just sitting in on a call and it doesn't take any additional effort, great. But there was some administrative stuff. We need to get this person onboarded into our system and set them up so they're well prepared for this call. And that takes some time and effort. So there's a fee that comes along with that, right? It's just an administrative fee. And understand that I'm not talking like when I say that I saved myself or I made an extra $4,000. This was $4,000 that was made in small decisions. Some of these extra charges were a couple $100s. Other times they were closer to $1,000, but these were a bunch of small decisions that all added up. Here's my favorite one, an extension. So if you are a home stager or in any sort of retainer type service business where someone can renew with you, whatever that renewal looks like. And in my coaching business, I often have renewals, of course, as well. And so I had a client who was coming up at the end of their contract and they wanted just a little bit of extra help, but they weren't sure if they wanted to renew yet. Well, if you want the extra help, you're going to need to renew, right? That's just how it all played out. And so that, can we extend for an extra month? Sure, but extensions cost money, right? Even if it's a matter of, well, it doesn't really cost me anything to extend something to them, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to them. And if it has value to them, there should be a dollar value on it for you. And if it doesn't take you a lot of time, even better. That increases your profitability. We want you to make more money on these things, right? So yeah, so can we just extend another month? So that was micro moment number 5. Micro moment number 6 is the extra support calls that just feel like being helpful. And where this comes in is this is not someone coming to you and asking to get onto your schedule and onto your calendar. This is where you are offering a call to someone because you feel like you want to give them some extra support. One of the things that I love doing with my clients, all of my one-on-one clients have Voxer access to me. If you're not familiar with Voxer, Voxer, it's they call it a walkie-talkie app, but what I really like about it is it's essentially an audio app. So yes, I know you can send voice notes through your phone, but if you have an Android versus an iPhone, it doesn't work as well. And then there's extra steps to it. This is just super easy to just like hit a button, speak into it, release the button, it sends to them. Really, really easy. And so all of my clients have this Voxer access to me. And it was actually introduced to me by another guest that we had on the show earlier, Luann Nigara, a powerhouse business coach for interior designers. And when her and I first connected, she gave me her cell number for Voxer. And I'd never used it before, but oh my gosh, did she open a whole new world for me. You can essentially have these voice conversations with someone that feel like you're having a dialogue, but it's not necessarily taking place in real time. So they can say something, then you respond. And what's nice about this is it's done at your convenience. So it's not having to take up that time on your calendar. And I know that talking things through is sometimes the best way to manage something, but maybe this is a great alternative, doing the Voxer access, as opposed to saying like, let's just hop on a quick call, because that can then become a pattern. Your support is valuable and valuable things should be priced accordingly. But if you're constantly hopping on a quick call to help someone with something, this is where you're offering it to them at no charge. You're not putting a value behind that. You are taking time away from other profit generating tasks for starters, and you're not charging for this time. Right. So you're losing money because you didn't charge them, and you're losing money because of the opportunities you're potentially missing out on. All right. Okay. So that brings me up to micro moment number 7. The speaking, this was a speaking fee one for me. So I get asked to speak at a lot of different things. And I'm trying to think of who it was that I had. It was Dr. Laura Sicola was one of the guests on my podcast. And she talked about how people might not be able to afford her speaker fee, for example. I do apologize if I'm getting the guest wrong, but I believe it was Dr. Laura. Sometimes people can't always pay her speaking fee, so she will offer them the opportunity to pay in non-monetary form, which I think is a great way to do this. Instead of saying, no, I can't speak, she's offering them a great alternative that they can pay in another way. And similarly for me, if someone can't afford my speaker fee, it doesn't mean that I have to say yes to what they're asking me for. So are there ways that I can support them that take less time. So for example, if they can't pay me a speaker fee, but they would like a brand new speaker topic, well, no, that's going to take me time and effort. And why am I going to create this topic for you? And don't get me wrong, we've all heard because we're going to get you a ton of business and there's a bunch of people who might buy something for you, yada, yada, yada. I get all of that. But ultimately, my time is money. Even if I am reusing a past talk, I update it and adjust it for the specific audience that I'm speaking with. And that takes time, that takes energy, that takes effort. I might have to do some research about that particular group as well. So I want to make sure that I'm really putting that effort in there. So when I get approached about speaking and they tell me they don't have a budget for a speaker, I understand that and I appreciate that. And I sympathize with it as well, for that matter. But that doesn't mean that I have to compromise my speaker fee. So I'm not going to say, well, I'm just going to charge a little something small, just so that, I can help them out, or they'll pay me in visibility. Well, exposure does not pay my bills, and you don't necessarily know what kind of quality that exposure is going to be. So visibility is not a substitute for compensation. That said, if you choose to lower your speaking fee in return for a certain level of exposure and visibility that's guaranteed for you, even though it might not necessarily translate into actual sales, then that's different. But if they're saying to you, well, we have an email list of 100 people, and for it to be worthwhile for you, you need an email list of 10,000 people, then it's not going to align, right? So whatever that looks like for you. And for me, it was a speaker fee that they were asking me to do something. And I think a lot of us, even if you're not a professional speaker, you may be getting asked to speak on the topic that you are an expert on for various different things. And that's great. But how much work are you putting into that without getting paid? That's a bit of a big deal, right? Okay. The eighth micro moment is just the quote that you undercharge on just because you're afraid that they're going to say no. So there's a few different ways that this showed up last month. And again, I've coached other people on this so many times. And so it amazes me that I caught myself doing the exact same thing. How about this one? This is my favorite. Well, I can do things faster, so I won't charge as much. Okay, so as someone who does tend to work on an hourly rate often, I'm often finding myself stuck between, well, how much time does this realistically take me versus how much energy am I putting into this, and how much effort is going in here, and how much value of the return they're going to get. So if I found a more efficient way to offer my calls, for example, I mean, I'm using AI more often. I have found some systems behind the scenes that work really, really well for me. I'm still obviously very much a human on the calls and everything else, but some of the follow-up work I've been able to outsource to my staff or to AI. And so I'm able to take on more clients because of this. I'm more efficient. That doesn't mean that I charge my clients less just because I can do things more efficiently. And again, I have had clients tell me, well, I can actually do that pretty quickly. That's great. But it's this, I believe I've talked about this before, the electrician who came over for 5 minutes and charged me a couple $100 to like change like a light switch or something like that. And for 5 minutes of work, was I paying him $200 for 5 minutes of work? No. I was paying him for his years of experience to get the job done in 5 minutes. So that's where that $200 went. There are other people that would say, but you were only here for 5 minutes. Like it's have you heard the story about, I'm probably going to butcher this and I do apologize, but there's this machine shop and their machine stops running and their production is shut down. This is costing them a ton of money every minute they're shut down. So they call in this engineer. Engineer comes out, takes a look at things, walks around for a few minutes, pulls out a hammer, taps one particular spot, fires up the machine, no problem. And then he sends a bill for $10,000. And the guy says, what are you talking about, $10,000? You were here for a few minutes and all you did was tap one thing with a hammer. Why am I paying $10,000? He said, you're paying $10,000 because I knew where to tap. Right? So this is what they're paying you for. So just because you can find a more efficient way of doing it doesn't mean that what you are offering as that service, as that advice, whatever it is worth anything less. So pricing, when you're pricing based on your comfort, not your value, that's when you're selling yourself short and you're leaving money on the table. So your pricing should reflect today's value, not your yesterday's comfort. And just because you got more efficient doesn't mean that you charge less. So again, none of these were dramatic necessarily, but that's exactly what makes them so dangerous, because these were just all little moments where I had to kind of check myself and say, are you undercharging, underscoping, over delivering, undervaluing for any reason whatsoever here? And so I was constantly checking in with myself just to make sure from an objective standpoint, if I was on the outside looking in, if I had to report this to my boss, what would my boss say? So I didn't necessarily fix this by just having sheer willpower. I started setting some standards. So the standard number one was I don't negotiate against myself. So listen, if they want a different price, they can ask for a different price, right? But hold your value calmly and most importantly, confidently. If they see you wavering, if you're like tiptoeing around and saying, oh, I hope you don't mind, but the price is a little bit, I'm sorry. Like you're already apologizing before you've even presented the pricing. They're going to see if they can get something they're going to see if they can get it for less from you. They're going to try and negotiate things because you are negotiating with yourself at that point. But when you hold your value, you state your value very clearly, calmly, and confidently, they're likely going to say yes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So standard number two is if it adds time, access, or administrative work, it has a price. Just normalize that. No apology. You are not charging for nothing. You are charging for very real work. And then any sort of extensions or extras are charged extra as well. So all of those require, and they might even require a whole new contract at times. But if scope is creeping, my price is going to creep with that scope as well. And then another standard is just that visibility doesn't pay my bills. And trust me, I get a lot of opportunities for visibility, whether it's to be on someone's podcast or to attend an event. And these are all great opportunities. But if they're trying to pay me for real work that I've done with these opportunities, well, those opportunities are still work for me as well. So I really want to make sure that we're balancing that. Speaking specifically at, speaking engagements, being a speaker can be very strategic, but it does have value. So yes, I can get clients out of it. I like to know that I'm providing a value that should be compensated regardless of whether or not I get any clients out of that. And then your prices should reflect, this is my last standard here, your prices should reflect your current expertise. So it doesn't, if anything, your pricing should never go down, right? Just because you got more efficient at something doesn't mean your price goes down. If anything, you've learned more, you've got better experiences. You can provide a better quality end user experience. So why not charge more for that? So here are some things that you can kind of say to yourself when you're in those moments. So when you're wanting to discount, this is what I want you to say to yourself. I am confident in the value at this rate. And if budget is the constraint, we can look at a smaller scope. Now, these might also be things that you can say to a client as well. So in this case, yeah, if they want a discount, I want you to say to yourself though, like, I am confident in the value at this rate. If they've asked you for a discount, then you can say to them, well, if budget is constrained, we can look at a smaller scope. But I don't want you even having that conversation with them. I don't even want you to bring up the idea of something smaller unless they're asking for it. So if you are wanting to discount, I want you to confidently tell yourself that the rate that you are charging is fair. And even go through, do the math in your head if you need to justify it to yourself. But I can assure you that whatever you're charging probably still isn't enough. Now, when someone wants a quick call, this is something you're going to want to say to them. I'm happy to support you. Here are the ways that you can get on my calendar, right? Super easy. And then you send them a payment link. Wonderful. Or if it's a matter of like, you do have to say, well, these are the dates and times. And then you can say to them, I can have my assistant send you an invoice. This is what the fee would be. Let me know what time works best for you. If they don't want to pay the fee, no problem. Your calendar's clear now, right? How about when scope creep happens? Again, scope creep means your price creeps. So you just simply have to identify to them. Oftentimes when clients' projects scope creep, they're not intending to do that. They're not expecting you to do extra things at no charge. They're just identifying that there are other things that they could use your support with. Great. That means they value you and your expertise. Give them the value and expertise that you have, but charge it for them. So that's what outside of our original scope can absolutely add it in, no problem. I'll send the updated options. I'll send an updated proposal. Whatever your business is, that might look a little bit different. So feel free to reframe it however makes most sense for you. Now, how about if someone asks for an extension? For all my stager friends out there, this one's for you. Can you just give me an extra week of the rentals? Absolutely. I'd be happy to do a prorated rate of our monthly renewal rate for one extra week if you would like. No problem. Here's the price for it. Right? Here's the rate. Here's what's included. An extension costs money. And then, of course, when you're quoting someone and you're thinking about the pricing for it in the first place. So I'm not talking about just I want to be fair, I want to keep the price low, and I'm going to negotiate against myself, but I'm talking about when you're creating that price in the first place, you want to think about the outcome that you're creating for them. That's what they're investing is that outcome. So it's not just about the minutes and the time that you are spending. It's about the value that you bring, the expertise that you have, your zone of genius. Okay, so I want you to take some time this week and catch yourself in some of these moments. I want you to ask yourself, maybe think back on the last week or so, where have you been throwing some money away? Or where are you about to throw some money away this week simply to avoid an uncomfortable moment? So ask yourself, where am I about to discount preemptively and negotiate against myself? Where am I about to over deliver silently? And let me say, if you are going to over deliver and not charge your client, you know what you do? You put it on their invoice and show that it was comped time. So let's say that you threw something in, put it on the invoice and say that it was no charge. That way your clients see that there was a value for it. Put the value in there, but say that you're not charging them. So where am I about to over deliver silently? Where am I about to add access to myself without pricing it? Where am I about to say yes because I don't want to be awkward? And what would it look like to be kind and paid? Okay, that discomfort you have around those money conversations is quite temporary. Once you start having more and more of these conversations that people are saying yes to what you're asking, yes to your expertise, it's going to feel a lot more natural, and you're going to plug up some of those profit leaks, because those profit leaks can certainly compound over time. Once you give an inch, they might try to take a mile, right? Okay, so I hope that you have found this useful in understanding some of the ways that I was leaking profit or potentially leaking profit, and how I managed to keep an extra $4,000 in my company. What would you do with an extra $4,000? And maybe some of the things that you're dealing with are you're leaking more than $4,000. For other people, you might just be leaking a few $100, but that money matters. All the money matters that we're leaking out, because it adds up over time. This was multiple situations. When I added it all up, it would have equaled $4,000 if I had not charged for it. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're moving forward this week, and identify some of these profit leaks and ways that you're putting some holes into your own profit unintentionally, inadvertently, but all just be nice, and you're paying that nice tax. Okay, so listen, if what I am saying to you today here is resonating with you, I hope that you will continue to allow me to be a part of your journey. Tune in again each week. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And if this is something that you're finding, these profit leaks are really happening for you on a regular basis, I'd love to have a call with you. I've created what is called a money momentum session. It's only 45 minutes. And in that 45 minutes, I will help you to identify the top areas where you are leaking money in your company. I've created a framework that allows me to be super efficient at this, which is one of the reasons why I offer this at a very reasonable rate while not underselling myself still. So go to aboutshaunalynn.com/money call to check it out and book a call with me. And I hope that you will tune in next week at the same time, same place. Don't forget to leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget, the best way that you can not only support this podcast, but support the women in your life who are working hard every day to try to save their money and not leak profit, is share this episode with someone that needs to hear this today. If you've been watching someone that you care about leaving money on the table, send this episode to them. They're going to thank you for it. And then who knows, they might just forward it on to the next person. Until next time, everyone, keep thriving.